welcome back to my channel. My name is Tammy, aka Color Me Curly. For those of you who don't know and this is your first time, hello. And if you are a returning subby or just a viewer, aloha, welcome back. Today I'm talking about anxiety because anxiety is just something that I never ever in a million years thought that would be something that would like affect me, because it was random for me. Like, I just never had those kinds of issues growing up. And two, because I posted it on my Snapchat about anxiety, and I got so many people like responding back saying, you know, me too. And that was just very nice to know that it wasn't just me. So I thought that I would make a video basically showcasing the things that I've done to kind of figure it out and know when I'm just having an anxiety attack, for lack of a better term, or when something genuinely is bothering me. So yeah, the first thing I want to talk about is basically identifying what anxiety is and recognizing that it manifests itself differently in different people. So it's not always just like feeling worried and stuff like that. It's just a general sense of just being unsettled and worrying, just thinking something bad is about to happen with no good reason for it. For me, it's just more like feeling like I'm in a rush, but not being sure what I'm rushing towards, rushing for, you know, just, you know, kind of pacing about. So that's, you know, how I kind of experience it, but everyone's experience is different. But just to know that anxiety does show itself differently in different people. So if you don't particularly experience it the same way as the next person, doesn't mean that your experience isn't justified. And it's also noteworthy that our generation in particular has been proven to be the most affected by anxiety, and I personally attribute that to social media and just the degree of separation between everybody being about this big, and, you know, your personal life pretty much being at the forefront of everything, and people being their own brands these days. You're kind of forced to interact with people on a very, very personal level, and that takes a lot out of you, and it's draining. And I mean, I'm not surprised, and you shouldn't be either. That's basically what it is and why we're all so panicky. My next thing I would say when thinking about anxiety is to get to know the voice in your head. Because the voice in your head and anxiety are literally like 5 and 6. That's the trigger. And when I say get to know the voice in your head, it's because a lot of the times we mistake that voice in our head for being our inner personality or our inner thoughts or being true to how we genuinely feel. But if you take a second and really listen to what the voice in your head is saying, you'd actually realize that, wait, is this what I feel, or is this just the voice in my head making the situation around me something that I can hear, pretty much. And I kind of use the example of, you know, if you're waiting on a text back from a boy, the voice in your head will convince you that this nigga ain't shit. He's this, he's that, he's texting another babe, he's with another babe. You know, you would build this situation up so huge in your head, but the second he texts you back saying, hey babe, sorry I was asleep, everything that you were thinking for the last 2 hours goes out the window. And you have to take a second and think, if this was really how I felt and these were really the thoughts that I believed, why is it so easy for them to disappear? And that's because they're not really your thoughts. They're just a manifestation of your emotions, and you need to be able to identify when that voice in your head is just running its mouth, you know? So that's something that I'll talk about. And so when you do that, you get a better idea of what I mean by it's not you. So the first thing I want you guys to do is make the voice in your head say hello. Make it whisper hello, and then make it scream hello. You can control all of these things. So as much as the voice in your head isn't your own thoughts, don't be like confused. When I say isn't your own thoughts, they are your thoughts, but they're not a true representation of how you genuinely feel in the second, because, you know, it changes like this. But take comfort in the fact that you can control it. So for me, I found that a good way for dealing with anxiety and those worrying thoughts was to kind of like sit back and have another voice in my head just look and watch the chatting voice and be like, okay, you are just talking, pretty much. So I say two's company in your head, so two's company, three's a crowd kind of thing. And I call this I call this thing your shower person. And for me, your shower person is like the most real and authentic version of yourself. So if you've had an argument with somebody, or you've done something bad and you haven't told anybody, or you're thinking something bad, or you're feeling something, anything that you try and hide, your shower personality is going to talk about it from now till tomorrow. And that's that voice in your head that when you're in the shower plays out arguments, scenes from movies, is Beyonce. It's the most confident and the most honest version of yourself. So I always say that a good way of dealing with anxiety is at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day when you do have a shower, every thought that comes in your head, try and separate it into two and think, okay, is this something that is a justified feeling, or is this something that I'm feeling because of a situation that I can't control? After a while, you learn to differentiate between your justified emotions and your like emotional emotions. This is what I call the is it me or is it them situation. So if you're feeling nervous about something or worried about something, I always say take a step back in your head, listen to the voice in your head, worry about it, panic about it, and take all those worries and panics on board, because they probably are relatively justified, or there's a reason for it, or you're feeling uneasy for a reason. I'm not saying that you should completely ignore your gut as you go along, but you're feeling uneasy for a reason, and so listen to it. But after you do that, take a step back and look and be like, is this coming from me being emotional, me being a brat, me being spoiled, me being woe is me being victimhood chic, all those things? Or am I genuinely like, do I really give a shit about this issue? Do I really care about this? Is it really something worth shaking me up? And then at that point, you can now decide, okay, this is just anxiety or this is real. And I say this because, trust me, the second you can decipher whether or not that feeling is justified or whether or not it's authentic, it's so much easier to brush it off as, you wake up the next day not feeling as bad because you've identified the emotion to be false. And even if you identify the emotion to be true, trust me when I say the worst is not going to kill you. So once you also accept that the worst isn't going to kill you, no matter how bad or crazy or worrying the thought seems, you will actually be able to just move on from the fact that the thought isn't going to kill you. You'll actually be able to move on and accept that the worst isn't going to kill you. So when it does come and you expect it, it's easier for you to work through it, because again, you've also worked through why you feel how you feel, and been able to pick apart the emotions that are just feathers on that confusing emotion and narrow it down to anger, irritation, frustration, sadness, unhappy, like whatever it is. Identify what that thing is, and it's so much easier to let go of all the other things that are making you feel overwhelmed and anxious and worrisome and just confused. That's pretty much all I have. I don't have a lot because obviously this isn't something that anybody really has all the answers to, but I genuinely would say that my one thing for anxiety is deciding what exactly you do give a shit about. So if you're anxious about something, do you actually care about that thing? Like, assess whether or not it's important to you, and then assess whether it's the voice in your head being bored and not having anything else to say and making a mountain out of a molehill, or if this is something that genuinely has reason to cause you anxiety. And if it does, it would be relatively simple for you to identify what it is that's bugging you and fix that thing and then move on. So I don't have all the answers. I haven't gotten it down. Some days I'm still panic ridden and jittery, but one day at a time. So thanks for watching, people, and see you in my next video. Bye.